Hello and welcome to another episode of Unhindered Faith. As we are jumping again, this is week number 2, asking the question, does God exist? Does God exist? I think at one point everybody has asked that question. Even growing up in church, in a pastor's home, I've asked that question myself. Does God exist? And we just wrestle with that. And last week in our previous episode, which you can check out, talked about how we see God through creation, and that's one of the answers. Today, we're going to talk about how the moral argument, last week was the creation argument, and this week I'm going to talk about the moral argument that we know that God exists just by the moral compass that we were created with. Let's put it this way. Let's simplify. When you pass a police officer, what's the first response that you do? You start to slow down. And it's probably because you think to yourself, oh, I don't want a ticket. But really what it is we know that there is a law, that there is a guide that we're supposed to drive by, and our natural instinct is to make sure that we're abiding by that. There's a moral compass to that. It's something that we were created with, and the presence of a universal sense of right and wrong is something that had to come from a creator. Romans chapter 2 verses 14 and 15 says this: indeed, when Gentiles who do not have the law, see, Gentiles were different from Jews, right? Jews were God's people in the New Testament, and Gentiles were considered the unclean, so the worldly. Indeed, when Gentiles who do not have the law do by nature things required by the law, they are the law for themselves. Even though they do not have the law, they show the requirements of the law are written on their hearts, their conscience also bearing witness, and their thoughts sometimes accusing them, and at other times even defending them. So even in Romans is written out and is talking about even the Gentiles who don't know the law, they have the law written on their hearts when they were created. During World War II is another good example of the world, even if they didn't believe in Jesus, didn't believe in the Bible, didn't believe in what was going on, knew that there was something immoral of what was taking place during World War II with the Jews and those that were thrown into the concentration camps, that there was something wrong and something had to take place. There was a moral compass, and is the moral argument which leads to there had to been somebody, the lawgiver. All right, so I didn't know this until I was looking at this, the moral argument that C.S. Lewis used to be. I knew that C.S. Lewis used to be an atheist, but a lot of it stemmed from where he became a follower of Christ was because of the moral argument that he says C.S. Lewis, a former atheist, was influenced by this argument, eventually concluding that this universal morality must come from God, that it was from a creator. So does God exist? I would have to say that our moral compass tells us yes, it does. Who is the one that has given us the balance of right and wrong? That even our moral compass might look different from one person to the next. It may change from one person to the next, but there's still a moral compass. We still know that there is a right and there is a wrong. So this week, I just want you to reflect on that, on your own sense of right and wrong. Consider how, even without being taught, you know that certain actions are just wrong. And it just kind of reinforces for us in our unhindered faith. Sometimes we struggle with our faith and with our God, and when we see that there are some things that My notes are flying. The wind just blew. Sometimes we think, how does that look in certain situations? To go, God, where are you? Just a reminder, in our moral compass, reminds us that there is a God and a creator. And so does God exist? The answer is yes, he exists. We see him in creation, as you see outside, and we also see him in our moral compass of what's right and wrong. And so I just wanted to encourage you this week with Motivational Monday. Does God exist? And the answer is yes. Next week, join us for another episode. I'll ask this question again. Does God exist? And we're going to explore the experience of God in people's lives. That we do know that God exists by the things that God has done in people's life and changing people's lives. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and make sure that you subscribe, like, follow, all that fun stuff, and join us next week. Have a blessed week.